At this stage of life, the question is no longer how hard you can push your body, but how wisely you can listen to it, because after 50, the body does not fail suddenly, it whispers first. Every ache, every stiffness, every slow morning is not a warning of weakness, but an invitation to move with intelligence instead of force. Running once symbolized health, discipline, and youth, but biology does not reward nostalgia. It rewards adaptation. The science of aging reveals a profound truth. The body thrives not on impact and exhaustion, but on movement that restores, strengthens, and communicates safety to the nervous system. When you understand this, exercise stops being a battle against time and becomes a dialogue with the remarkable system that has carried you this far. Intentional walking is not exercise in the traditional sense. It is a conversation between the body and the ground, a slow exchange of information that becomes more valuable with age. When people think of walking, they imagine something too simple to matter, yet simplicity is precisely why it works so deeply after 50. Each step sends gentle signals through the soles of the feet into the nervous system, reminding the brain where the body exists in space, and this awareness quietly sharpens balance, coordination, and confidence. Unlike running, which demands speed and impact before the body has fully negotiated stability, intentional walking invites the joints to move within their natural design, allowing cartilage to hydrate and decompress instead of being compressed again and again under force. The knees, hips, and spine respond not with resistance, but with cooperation, because they are being asked to move, not to endure. From a biological perspective, slow rhythmic walking regulates stress hormones in a way few exercises can. Cortisol, the hormone associated with chronic stress and inflammation, decreases when movement feels safe and predictable. After 50, the nervous system becomes more sensitive to perceived threats, including aggressive physical strain. Running often keeps the body in a subtle fight-or-flight state, especially if breathing becomes shallow or strained, but walking with intention shifts the nervous system toward calm alertness. This shift matters because healing, tissue repair, and immune function all depend on the body feeling safe. When walking is done with attention to posture, breath, and rhythm, the brain interprets it not as survival, but as nourishment. Muscles also behave differently when movement slows down. Fast repetitive motion favors a narrow group of fibers, while slow controlled walking engages stabilizing muscles that protect joints and posture. The small muscles around the hips, ankles, and spine are often ignored during high-impact exercise, yet these are the muscles that prevent pain and falls later in life. Each deliberate step becomes a micro-strengthening event, subtly rebuilding the support system that keeps the body upright and resilient. Blood flow improves without spiking blood pressure, and the heart learns efficiency rather than urgency, which is why intentional walking is associated with improved cardiovascular markers without the wear and tear seen in high-impact training. There is also a metabolic intelligence to walking that is often overlooked. While running burns calories quickly, it also demands recovery, sometimes days of it, especially as tissues age. Walking, however, can be done frequently, even daily, creating a steady metabolic signal rather than a sharp spike. This consistency improves insulin sensitivity, helping the body manage blood sugar more effectively, a crucial factor after 50 when metabolic flexibility naturally declines. Walking after meals gently encourages muscles to absorb glucose, reducing strain on the pancreas and lowering the long-term risk of metabolic disease, all without exhausting the body. Equally important is what happens in the mind during intentional walking. The brain thrives on rhythm, and when footsteps fall into a steady pattern, neural circuits begin to synchronize. This synchronization improves mood, cognitive clarity, and emotional regulation. Many people notice that their best thinking occurs while walking, not because the brain is distracted, but because it is optimally stimulated. After 50, maintaining cognitive health is as important as maintaining physical strength, and walking offers both without demanding separation between the two. Movement becomes meditation without stillness, presence without pressure. Posture naturally improves when walking is done with awareness. The spine aligns itself when the head floats, the shoulders relax, and the arms swing freely, restoring natural mechanics that are often lost after years of sitting. This alignment reduces unnecessary strain on the lower back and neck, areas that commonly suffer when impact-based exercise is layered onto already compromised posture. Instead of forcing the body into shape, walking allows the body to remember its shape, and memory at the cellular level is a powerful thing. Perhaps the most profound aspect of intentional walking is that it respects the timeline of aging rather than resisting it. Aging tissues adapt more slowly, but they still adapt beautifully when given the right signal. Walking sends that signal repeatedly, gently, and reliably. It does not demand heroism or competition, only attention. Over time, this consistency reshapes not just muscles and joints, but the relationship a person has with their own body. Movement stops being something to survive and becomes something to inhabit, and in that space, health is no longer chased, it is cultivated, step by step, breath by breath, as the body relearns trust in its own ability to move through the world without fear or force, guided by rhythm, awareness, and the quiet intelligence that has always been present beneath the noise of speed. Resistance training after 50 is often misunderstood as an attempt to reclaim youth, but in reality it is an act of preservation and communication with the body's deeper systems. Muscle is not merely tissue that creates movement, it is an organ of regulation, influencing blood sugar control, hormone balance, joint stability, and even immune resilience. As the years pass, the body naturally reduces muscle mass unless it receives a clear message that strength is still required. That message does not need to be loud or aggressive. It needs to be consistent, precise, and respectful of recovery. When the body is exposed to controlled resistance, even light resistance, it responds by reinforcing not only muscle fibers but the neural pathways that activate them. From a scientific standpoint, muscle fibers contain sensors that respond to tension, not speed. Slow, deliberate movements create prolonged tension, which stimulates protein synthesis more effectively than rapid or explosive motion. This is particularly important after 50, when the body's ability to rebuild tissue becomes more selective. Running rarely provides this sustained tension. It relies on momentum rather than muscular engagement, allowing many muscles to remain passive while others absorb repetitive stress. Resistance exercises, even simple ones like controlled squats or pushing against a wall, invite full participation from stabilizing muscles that protect joints and maintain alignment. Bone health is inseparable from muscle activity. Bones are living tissue that respond to load by increasing density, but the load must be applied in a way the body can interpret as safe. Resistance training creates compressive forces that signal bones to stay strong, especially in areas vulnerable to age-related loss such as the hips and spine. Running does load the skeleton, but the impact is brief and often absorbed unevenly, sometimes reinforcing imbalances rather than correcting them. Resistance training, when done with attention, distributes load through the body in a way that encourages structural integrity rather than wear. Metabolism also shifts in response to resistance work in a way that is uniquely beneficial with age. Muscle tissue consumes energy even at rest, acting as a quiet metabolic engine that supports weight management without constant exertion. After 50, when hormonal changes make fat storage more efficient, this resting energy demand becomes essential. Running burns energy in the moment but does little to raise long-term metabolic rate unless paired with muscle building work. Resistance training changes the baseline, subtly increasing daily energy use without requiring longer or harder workouts. There is also a neurological dimension that often goes unnoticed. Strength training improves communication between the brain and muscles, enhancing coordination and reaction time. Each repetition strengthens the brain's map of the body, reinforcing confidence in movement. This neural clarity reduces the risk of missteps and injuries, especially in unpredictable environments. Running follows a repetitive pattern that demands little variation in motor control, while resistance training challenges the body in multiple planes of motion, preparing it for real-life demands such as lifting, reaching, and stabilizing. Emotionally, resistance training offers a sense of capability that goes beyond aesthetics. The ability to lift oneself from a chair, carry groceries, or maintain posture during daily tasks directly influences self-trust. After 50, this sense of capability becomes a form of psychological safety. The body learns that it is still reliable, still responsive, still capable of adaptation. This belief influences behavior, encouraging continued movement rather than avoidance, which is one of the greatest predictors of long-term health. Recovery, often overlooked in younger years, becomes central after 50, and resistance training respects recovery when approached intelligently. Muscles adapt during rest, not during exertion, and controlled strength work allows for adequate recovery between sessions. Running, especially when frequent, can create cumulative fatigue in joints and connective tissue that recover more slowly with age. Resistance training, by contrast, can be scaled precisely to match energy levels, allowing progress without depletion. Perhaps the most powerful aspect of resistance training is that it slows the biological clock in a way that is measurable. Studies show improvements in insulin sensitivity, inflammation markers, and functional strength even in individuals who begin later in life. These changes are not cosmetic. They reflect deeper cellular adaptations that influence longevity and quality of life. Resistance training does not chase endurance or speed. It cultivates resilience, teaching the body how to resist gravity, time, and decline through intelligent effort. When strength becomes a practice rather than a performance, it integrates seamlessly into life. It no longer competes with the body's needs but supports them. Muscles become allies rather than. Mobility-based stretching is often mistaken for something passive or optional, yet it represents one of the most biologically intelligent forms of movement available after 50. At this stage of life, stiffness is not simply a lack of flexibility. It is the nervous system choosing protection over freedom. Joints become guarded when the brain no longer trusts the surrounding tissues to move safely, and this guardedness gradually reduces range of motion. Mobility work gently reverses this process by showing the nervous system that movement can occur without threat. Instead of forcing muscles to lengthen, mobility invites joints to explore their natural pathways, restoring confidence before capacity. From a scientific perspective, joints are nourished by movement, not rest. Cartilage does not have its own blood supply, which means it relies on compression and release to absorb nutrients. When joints are taken slowly through full ranges of motion, cartilage behaves like a sponge, drawing in fluid and expelling waste. Running compresses joints repeatedly but often without full release, especially when stride length shortens with age. Mobility-based movement creates both compression and decompression, which is essential for joint longevity. Over time, this process improves lubrication, reduces friction, and preserves the smooth surfaces that allow pain-free movement. Muscles, tendons, and fascia also respond uniquely to slow movement. Fascia, the connective tissue that wraps and links muscles, adapts based on how it is used. When movement becomes repetitive and linear, fascia stiffens along those patterns, limiting adaptability. Mobility work introduces variability, gently pulling and gliding tissues in multiple directions. This variability restores elasticity and hydration, allowing force to be distributed more evenly across the body. As a result, tension that once settled into the lower back, hips, or neck begins to dissipate without aggressive stretching or manipulation. Neurologically, mobility training refines the brain's internal map of the body. Each controlled movement sends precise feedback to the brain, improving proprioception, the sense of where the body is in space. This awareness is essential after 50, when sensory feedback naturally diminishes. Improved proprioception leads to smoother transitions between movements, fewer compensations, and a reduced risk of sudden strain. Running, with its repetitive pattern, offers limited sensory input, while mobility work constantly updates the brain with new information, keeping motor control sharp and adaptable. Breathing plays a subtle but crucial role in effective mobility. Slow movements encourage deep, rhythmic breathing, which activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the branch responsible for relaxation and repair. This state allows muscles to release tension more readily and joints to move more freely. When breathing is shallow or hurried, the body remains in a guarded state, resisting change. Mobility practices that integrate breath create an internal environment where tissues are more willing to adapt, and adaptation is the foundation of long-term health. Mobility also reintroduces movement patterns that modern life gradually erases. Sitting reduces hip extension, forward posture limits shoulder mobility, and limited spinal movement diminishes rotational capacity. These losses are not inevitable consequences of aging but predictable results of disuse. Mobility work restores these patterns gently, allowing the body to reclaim movements that once felt natural. This restoration improves efficiency in all other forms of exercise, making walking, lifting, and daily activities feel easier and more coordinated. Pain, when viewed through the lens of mobility, often becomes less mysterious. Many chronic aches are not signs of damage but signals of restriction and imbalance. When one joint loses motion, another compensates, creating stress in unexpected places. Mobility-based stretching addresses the system as a whole, encouraging balance rather than isolating symptoms. Over time, the body redistributes load more evenly, reducing the need for protective tension that manifests as pain. Emotionally, mobility fosters patience and self-awareness. It encourages listening rather than forcing, exploration rather than achievement. After 50, this mindset becomes as important as the physical benefits. The body responds best when it feels respected, and mobility practices cultivate that respect through curiosity and attentiveness. Movement becomes a form of dialogue, revealing limitations not as failures but as information. Perhaps most importantly, mobility preserves options. It keeps doors open between movements, allowing the body to choose how it responds rather than being locked into rigid patterns. This freedom is what allows aging to occur without unnecessary suffering. When joints move freely and muscles cooperate rather than resist, the body remains capable of adaptation. Mobility-based stretching does not seek to make the body extreme or exceptional. It seeks to make it usable, comfortable, and responsive, honoring the natural design of human movement while quietly supporting longevity, independence, and the subtle grace that comes from moving through life without fear or force, guided by awareness and the quiet intelligence of tissues that remember how to move when given time and permission. Balance-focused movement becomes profoundly important after 50 because the body's relationship with gravity changes, not suddenly, but subtly, as sensory systems begin to lose sharpness. Balance is not a single skill stored in the legs or feet. It is a continuous conversation between the eyes, the inner ear, the joints, and the brain. When this conversation weakens, the body becomes cautious, movements become smaller, and confidence quietly erodes. Many people assume that loss of balance is an unavoidable part of aging, yet biology suggests otherwise. Balance fades primarily from neglect, not from time itself, and it can be restored through deliberate and gentle challenge. The inner ear plays a central role in balance by detecting changes in head position and motion. With age, this system becomes less responsive unless it is regularly stimulated. Balance exercises reawaken these senses by introducing controlled shifts in position, teaching the brain to interpret motion accurately again. Running provides constant forward motion but rarely challenges lateral or rotational stability, leaving the vestibular system undertrained. Balance work, on the other hand, exposes the body to varied orientations, strengthening the brain's ability to remain calm and coordinated when conditions change. Vision also contributes significantly to balance, particularly in low-light or uneven environments. Balance-focused movement encourages the integration of visual information with bodily awareness, teaching the brain to adapt when visual input is limited. This adaptability becomes critical in daily life, where unexpected obstacles or changes in terrain are common. By practicing balance, the body learns to rely not solely on sight but on internal cues from muscles and joints, creating a more resilient and adaptable system. At the muscular level, balance training activates small stabilizing muscles that often remain dormant during linear exercises. These muscles, located around the ankles, knees, hips, and spine, respond quickly to subtle shifts in weight, protecting joints from sudden stress. As people age, these muscles weaken unless specifically engaged, increasing the risk of falls. Balance exercises strengthen them in a functional way, improving reaction time and joint protection. Running primarily engages larger muscles in predictable patterns, while balance training prepares the body for the unpredictable nature of real life. Neurologically, balance challenges enhance brain plasticity. Each attempt to maintain stability requires the brain to process sensory information, make rapid adjustments, and refine motor output. This continuous feedback loop strengthens neural pathways involved in coordination and spatial awareness. Research shows that balance training can improve cognitive function, particularly in areas related to attention and executive control. After 50, preserving cognitive sharpness becomes inseparable from preserving physical stability, and balance work supports both simultaneously. Psychologically, balance training rebuilds trust in the body. Fear of falling often leads to reduced movement, which in turn accelerates physical decline. By practicing balance in a controlled environment, individuals regain confidence in their ability to recover from small disturbances. This confidence translates into more fluid movement in daily life, reducing stiffness and hesitation. The body moves more freely when the mind believes it is capable of recovery. Balance also encourages mindfulness. Maintaining stability requires presence and attention, drawing awareness into the moment. This focused state calms the nervous system and reduces anxiety, creating an internal environment conducive to learning and adaptation. Unlike high-impact exercises that can induce stress, balance training fosters a sense of control and composure, which is particularly valuable as the nervous system becomes more sensitive with age. The benefits of balance-focused movement extend beyond fall prevention. Improved balance enhances efficiency in all other physical activities, from walking to lifting. When the body maintains stability effortlessly, energy can be directed toward movement rather than correction. This efficiency reduces fatigue and strain, allowing for greater participation in daily activities without exhaustion. Balance training respects the body's need for gradual progression. It can be scaled to match individual ability, making it accessible regardless of fitness level. This adaptability encourages consistency, which is essential for lasting change. Unlike running, which often requires recovery from impact, balance work can be practiced frequently without overloading joints. Perhaps most importantly, balance-focused movement supports independence. The ability to navigate the world confidently, to step onto a curb, reach for an object, or recover from a stumble, defines quality of life more than speed or endurance. By nurturing balance, individuals preserve their autonomy and dignity as they age. Balance training does not seek to eliminate vulnerability but to build resilience, teaching the body how to respond gracefully to instability rather than fearing it, allowing movement to remain a source of confidence and freedom as the years unfold, guided by awareness, adaptability, and the quiet strength that comes from standing securely in one's own body. Breath-led low-impact movement reveals a truth that often goes unnoticed in discussions about fitness, that the way we breathe may shape our health as profoundly as the way we move. After 50, the respiratory system becomes less elastic, the chest wall stiffens, and breathing patterns often shift towards shallow, hurried rhythms without conscious awareness. When movement is guided by breath rather than forced by effort, the body begins to reorganize itself around efficiency instead of strain. Breath becomes the metronome for motion, setting a pace that the heart, muscles, and nervous system can sustain without resistance. From a physiological standpoint, deep, controlled breathing improves oxygen exchange at the cellular level. Slow inhalations allow the lungs to fully expand, increasing oxygen uptake, while prolonged exhalations stimulate the vagus nerve, promoting relaxation and recovery. This balance between activation and calming is essential after 50, when chronic low-grade inflammation becomes more common. Breath-led movement gently reduces this inflammatory state by lowering stress hormones and improving circulation, creating conditions where tissues can repair rather than deteriorate. Low-impact movement paired with conscious breathing also supports cardiovascular health in a nuanced way. Instead of pushing the heart into extremes, it trains the heart to respond smoothly to changing demands. Heart rate variability, a marker of autonomic nervous system flexibility, improves when breath and movement are synchronized. Higher variability indicates a heart that can adapt quickly, recovering efficiently from stress. Running often elevates heart rate sharply, which can be beneficial in moderation, but breath-led practices cultivate adaptability rather than endurance alone, a quality that becomes increasingly important with age. Muscles respond differently when breath guides motion. Coordinated breathing reduces unnecessary tension, allowing muscles to work in harmony rather than opposition. This coordination improves movement efficiency, reducing fatigue and strain on joints. When breath is held or erratic, muscles compensate by tightening, which can exacerbate stiffness and pain. Breath-led movement teaches muscles to contract and release rhythmically, preserving energy and reducing the risk of injury. There is also a profound neurological effect. Conscious breathing anchors attention in the present moment, engaging brain regions involved in awareness and emotional regulation. This engagement calms the nervous system, reducing anxiety and improving mood. After 50, emotional well-being becomes closely linked to physical health, as stress can accelerate physiological decline. Breath-led movement offers a pathway to address both simultaneously, integrating mind and body in a way that feels natural and accessible. Low-impact, breath-guided exercises also respect the body's changing biomechanics. Joints that have experienced decades of use benefit from movement that maintains alignment and minimizes compression. Cycling at a gentle pace, flowing movements that transition smoothly between positions, or controlled functional patterns allow joints to move without abrupt force. When breath sets the tempo, movements naturally slow down, giving tissues time to respond and adapt. This adaptability preserves joint health and reduces the likelihood of overuse injuries. Metabolically, breath-led movement supports energy regulation without overwhelming the system. It encourages the body to utilize oxygen efficiently, improving mitochondrial function, the process by which cells generate energy. Efficient mitochondria contribute to better stamina and reduced fatigue, allowing for sustained activity without exhaustion. Running often prioritizes output over efficiency, while breath-led practices cultivate sustainable energy use. Emotionally, breath-led movement fosters a sense of connection and compassion toward the body. It shifts the focus from performance to experience, allowing individuals to tune into subtle sensations and signals. This awareness promotes self-care and reduces the tendency to ignore discomfort, which can lead to injury. After 50, this compassionate approach becomes essential for maintaining long-term health and enjoyment of movement. Breath-led practices also create space for reflection. As movement slows and breath deepens, the mind often becomes quieter, opening a space for insight and clarity. This reflective state supports mental resilience, helping individuals navigate life transitions with greater ease. Physical movement becomes a form of meditation, reinforcing the connection between physical vitality and mental clarity. Perhaps most importantly, breath-led low-impact movement reinforces the idea that health is not achieved through force but through alignment. When breath and movement work together, the body operates as an integrated system rather than a collection of parts. This integration supports longevity by reducing wear, enhancing recovery, and preserving the joy of movement. Breath-led practices do not seek to replace intensity but to balance it, offering a sustainable path that honors the body's wisdom and capacity for renewal, allowing movement to remain a source of vitality, presence, and quiet strength as the years progress, guided by breath, awareness, and the deep intelligence that emerges when effort gives way to harmony.